This video is about managing expectations for the sponsorship year and your relationships with refugee newcomers. We all have expectations, whether we're aware of them or not. In preparation for the sponsorship, you've probably envisioned picking up refugee newcomers from the airport or introducing them to their neighborhood. Perhaps you've pictured the newcomers being excited, happy, grateful, but what if you experience the opposite? It is easy to develop unrealistic expectations, which can lead to serious problems in sponsorships. Let's go over some examples of common expectations from sponsors. Sponsors may expect that newcomers will be super happy to be in Canada. In reality, many refugees never wanted to leave their country, so sometimes happy is not the first emotion they feel about being in Canada. They're likely feeling a whole range of emotions, including anxiety and sadness. For example, they may deeply miss the home and people they left behind, they may struggle with Canada's cold or hot weather, and they may feel anxiety or frustration around navigating cultural differences, communicating in English, and facing other settlement challenges. Understanding the newcomer's perspective is essential for building trust and providing effective support. Sponsors may also expect that newcomers will disclose if they don't feel comfortable doing something sponsors suggest or request. It's possible that newcomers feel confident asserting themselves, but they may easily feel pressure to do what sponsors ask or to say what they think sponsors want to hear. It helps to make it really clear that newcomers can say no to offers or requests that come from you and your group. Most sponsors go to great lengths to be prepared, but things rarely go exactly as planned. One expectation you can have is to always expect surprises. So much depends on the individuals involved, their personalities, and unique needs. Part of being ready is being prepared to be flexible and adjust plans for support when new factors arise. For example, you may not be able to find affordable housing as soon as the newcomers arrive. Or the family could have new children in the years between applying for private sponsorship and arriving in Canada. Or an illness may prevent a newcomer from taking English classes or finding a job. Sponsors take on a huge amount of work and responsibility, which makes it easy to want to control things so that your thoughtfully created plans are followed. However, as a BVOR sponsor group aptly put it, it is important to remember that newcomers are people, not projects. Sponsorship is a support role to provide guidance, information, and basic financial support. Refugee newcomers have the right to self-determination, which means a right to control their own life. That may include veering from the path that you envisioned and potentially making what you believe to be bad decisions. Consider a scenario where you arrange free spots at a wonderful after-school program for the newcomer children, but the parents decline. You will likely feel disappointed, but your job is to provide information and opportunities, whereas it's the newcomer's job to decide what is right for themselves. All you can do is help them access the information that will allow them to make informed decisions. Expect that you and the sponsored newcomers will not share all the same values, nor agree on all decisions. Be prepared to support them anyway, within the scope of your responsibilities. In addition to reflecting on your own expectations, it is necessary to consider and discuss expectations that sponsored newcomers may have. Each refugee newcomer brings with them a set of expectations. They may come from family members or friends who were sponsored, from the media, the rosy image of Canada projected to the world, or their own priorities, hopes, and dreams. Oftentimes, connecting pre-arrival to discuss expectations is helpful. For example, newcomers may expect to find work as soon as they arrive. However, in addition to the job market being fairly tough, the reality is that most newcomers need to focus full-time on learning for at least their first several months, if not most of their first year in Canada. There are many things to learn before accessing work, including learning English, recertifying for driver's license and professional credentials, and simply learning how to navigate all the new systems, customs, and places they need to interact with. Newcomers may underestimate how important it is to achieve sufficient English for access to work. As well, Canadian processes to recognize foreign credentials are complicated, stringent, and expensive. All of this can be really frustrating and challenge a newcomer's sense of self. Therefore, this is a very important expectation to discuss. Some newcomers may expect to learn English quickly. However, English is really hard to learn, and full-time, good quality, free classes are not always available right away. Once in ESL classes, it can be a long road before newcomers' English level meets the high standards required by many schools and workplaces. It's also very easy for newcomers to surround themselves with people who speak their language and avoid practicing English. Canada can be seen as a land of opportunity, and some newcomers may expect to be able to send money to relatives back home. However, life here is expensive, leaving little opportunity to send money home. Moreover, sponsorship funds should not be used for family members abroad. Managing expectations in the sponsor-newcomer relationship is tricky, but it is an essential part of a sponsor's job. Close to the beginning of the sponsorship, sponsors should meet with the refugee newcomers to discuss expectations for their first year in Canada. Newcomers may arrive knowing nothing about the private sponsorship program, so it's a sponsor's responsibility to explain the program and outline goals, roles, timelines, and priorities. At the same time, sponsors can ask newcomers about their priorities for the sponsorship year and explore ways to work together towards the same goals and address unrealistic or misaligned expectations from the start. In general, sponsors should focus on providing support that is wanted. If sponsors and newcomers are not aligned in their priorities, sponsors may put effort into supporting the path they think is best when newcomers are not interested in following that path. During the meeting, remember to ask questions, listen carefully, and check for the newcomer's understanding. Finally, let's go over a few tips to help manage expectations. 1. Be consistent. Do your best to be consistent among fellow sponsor group members in terms of what you can and cannot provide as sponsors. This will help to keep expectations level and avoid confusion. 2. Use a welcome agreement. Some sponsor groups draft a welcome agreement for refugee newcomers to sign. The agreement outlines roles and expectations, which can help set the tone for the sponsorship. Please contact Aura if you'd like to see some welcome agreement examples from other sponsor groups. 3. Strive to create a respectful environment of open communication that allows expectations to be identified, understood, and discussed. For example, make sure to use interpreters when needed. Avoid yes/no questions. When possible, provide options from which newcomers may choose. Explain that newcomers have the right to express their opinions, desires, and concerns, and that the sponsorship will probably be better if they do. And finally, avoid being over-directive. Instead, guide when guidance is requested. Our final tip for managing expectations is striving for cultural awareness. If applicable, inform yourself about the customs and culture of the newcomer to understand how this might affect your communications and relationship. For example, it may be important to know if the newcomer comes from a culture that values indirect communication. Canadians tend to communicate their thoughts directly, whereas other cultures may politely talk around a subject and provide a lot of context before arriving at their point, or relying on you to infer their point. A final thought before we conclude. When it comes down to it, starting life over in Canada is hard, and for a lot of reasons, newcomers are not always able to progress their lives in Canada to the extent that their sponsors want to support. There is no measuring stick to say, you should be here. Each newcomer's sponsorship year will unfold with a set of challenges unique to them. There is no universal timeline or path to success when settling in Canada. Sponsors must meet newcomers where they are, offer tailored support, and accept outcomes that may be different from their hopes. Thanks for watching this video on managing expectations during the sponsorship. We hope you found it helpful.